Dank times, Danker thoughts, sweet vibes and taking it sleazy. The dankness is taking over, nonsense is dancing through his mind. Oh, the dankness is taking over. Dank times, Danker thoughts with Angelo Grosso.
Well, hello there. What is happening, baby? Welcome to podcast number 83, Dank times Danker Thoughts with me, the one and only Angelo motherfucking Grosso. And right off the bat, we're going to power through some news stories that caught my eye throughout the week. First one, I don't know if you've heard, but shit is looking real bad right now between the good old boys of America and those damn red Ruskies over in Russia. Over Russia's neighbor, the poor, innocent Ukraine. What has Ukraine ever done to anyone that's harmful? All the Ukraine has done is just pumped out gorgeous women year after year after year. My God, there's something in the Eastern European genetics that just pumps out beautiful, beautiful females and just troll-like ogre-looking men. I don't know what it is, but anyway. What the fuck is going on, you say? I don't watch the news, Angelo. I can't even point to Ukraine on a map. There's American public schooling for you. So, what are the roots of the current Russia-Ukraine standoff? And that's why we are getting involved, because Ukraine is our ally. Ukraine, which was part of the Russian Empire for centuries before becoming a Soviet republic, won independence as the USSR broke up in 1991. That is the Soviet Union, you dumb fucks. The country has moved to shed its Russian imperial legacy and forge increasingly close ties with the West. A decision by Kremlin-leaning Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych to reject an association agreement with the European Union in favor of closer ties with Moscow sparked mass protests that led to his ouster in 2014. So this shit ain't new. Russia responded by annexing Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula and throwing its weight behind a separatist insurgency that broke out in Ukraine's east. Ukraine and the West accused Russia of sending its troops and weapons to back the rebels. Moscow denied that, charging that Russians who joined the separatists were volunteers. Yeah, like they have a fucking say. More than 14,000 people have died in the fighting that devastated Ukraine's eastern industrial heartland known as Donbas, D-O-N-B-A-S. A 2015 peace agreement brokered by France and Germany helped end large-scale battles, but efforts to reach a political settlement have failed, and sporadic skirmishes have continued along the tense line of contact. Earlier this year, a spike in ceasefire violations in the east and a Russian troop concentration near Ukraine fueled war fears, but tensions abated when Moscow pulled back the bulk of its forces after maneuvers this last April. So what is going on with the latest Russian military buildup? Because that's what's sending red alarms all over the West here. U.S. intelligence officials last week determined that Russia is planning to deploy an estimated 175,000 troops, and almost half of them are already stationed along various points near Ukraine's border in preparation for a possible invasion that could begin as soon as early 2022. What a way to bring in the new year. Ukraine has complained that Moscow has kept over 90,000 troops not far from the two countries' border following massive war games in western Russia in the fall. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said units of the Russian 41st Army have remained near Yelnya, a town about 160 miles north of the Ukrainian border. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov told lawmakers Friday that number of Russian troops near Ukraine and in Russia annexed Crimea is estimated at 94,300, warning that a large-scale escalation is possible sometime in January. Additionally, the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces says Russia has about 2,100 military personnel in Ukraine's rebel-controlled east, and that Russian officials hold all commanding positions in the separatist forces. Moscow has repeatedly denied the presence of its troops in eastern Ukraine. Russia hasn't provided any details, shocker, about its troop numbers and locations, saying that their deployment on its own territory shouldn't concern anyone. So then you may wonder, well, what the fuck does Moscow even want with the Ukraine? The Kremlin, that's Russia, has accused Ukraine of failing to honor the 2015 peace deal and criticized the West for failing to encourage Ukrainian compliance. The agreement was a diplomatic coup for Moscow, requiring Ukraine to grant broad autonomy to the rebel regions and offer a sweeping amnesty to their rebels. Ukraine, in turn, has pointed to ceasefire violations by Russia-backed separatists and insists there is a continuing Russian troop presence in the rebel east despite the Kremlin's denials. Amid all this, Russia has rejected a four-way meeting with Ukraine, France, and Germany, saying it's useless in view of Ukraine's refusal to abide with the 2015 agreement. Moscow has strongly criticized the U.S. and its NATO allies for providing Ukraine with weapons and holding joint drills, saying that encouraging Ukrainian hawks to try to regain the rebel held area by force. Earlier this year, Vladimir Putin ominously said a military attempt by Ukraine to reclaim the east would have grave consequences for Ukrainian statehood. The Russian president has repeatedly described Russians and Ukrainians as one people and claims that Ukraine has unfairly received historic Russian lands during Soviet times. Putin has also emphasized that Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO represent a red line for Moscow, God forbid, and also expressed a concern about plans by some NATO members to set up a military training center in the Ukraine. He said that would give them a military foothold that there even without Ukraine joining NATO. Last week, Putin emphasized that Russia will seek reliable and long-term security guarantees from the U.S. and its allies that would exclude any further NATO moves eastward and the deployment of weapon systems there that threaten us in close vicinity to Russian territory. So basically, Russia doesn't want the West to encroach in on Russia because Russia wants nothing to do with the West, even though the West encouraged Russian regrowth after the USSR fell. But what do I know? I only went to college and actually paid attention in history class. So, here's the bottom line. The big question. Is the threat of a Russian invasion in the Ukraine real? Well, according to the AP News, which is where I'm getting this story, Russia rejected talks of an invasion plot as a Western smear campaign and charged the claims could conceal a Ukrainian intention for an attack in the east. Ukraine denies such plans. Some observers interpret the troop buildup as a demonstration by Putin that Russia is prepared to raise the stakes to convince NATO to respect Moscow's red lines and stop sending troops and weapons to Ukraine. Last month, Putin noted with satisfaction that Moscow's warnings finally have some traction and caused a certain stress in the West. He added, it's necessary to keep them in that condition for as long as possible so that it doesn't occur to them to stage some conflict on our western borders that we don't need. U.S. officials conceded that Moscow's intentions are unclear, but pointed to Russia's past behavior as a cause for concern. Biden pledged Friday to make it very, very difficult for Putin to attack Ukraine, saying that a set of new initiatives coming from his administration are intended to deter Russian aggression. So what the fuck can we do? Do I think that if Russia does invade Ukraine, World War III is going to break out? No. Biden basically said that U.S. is not going to act alone in the worst case scenario. He said if anything does happen in terms of a Russian invasion of the Ukraine, it would be a UN force type of issue. But that also means boots on the ground is a possibility from all United Nations. But let's be real. Who's probably going to have the most people there? It's going to be us, probably. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that it is Putin just posturing and that this is all just a big political gambit thing so that he keeps getting reelected. Although I think no, that's China where the jabroni said he's president or dictator or leader for life. I don't know if I think Putin wants that, but I don't know about Russian politics, so I'm not going to gossip on such geopolitical nonsense because I don't know. All I know is every single day I'm reading about this Russian-Ukrainian possible conflict, And what does it mean for the world? I mean, those poor Ukrainian people, if they want to do what's the best for them, according to how their people vote, and if that means joining NATO, then let them join fucking NATO, Russia. Who gives a fuck? Russia is so goddamn big. And Ukraine has been its own country for what, something about 20 years or so? Russia, you have plenty of room to do whatever you want. It's not my fault that you don't have any natural resources in Russia anymore. You've been a country for too long. There's been so many goddamn battles. You almost lost to the Germans. You almost lost to the Japanese before that. And Stalin pretty much finished the deal after both of those wars. So I understand why you're hot and angry and you just want to blow off some steam. But don't be picking on the little kid in the playground like Ukraine. You're a big fat bully son of a bitch. Come on, you Soviet fucks. Just let Ukraine do their thing and worry about your own people, you know? Come on, chill, man. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. Some more bad news, people. Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, can be extradited from the UK to the US. A high court in the UK ruled. Now, this is from the BBC. The US won its appeal against a January UK court ruling that Julian Assange could not be extradited due to concerns over his mental health, aka he could get assassinated or tortured or quote-unquote suicided once he reaches America. Judges were reassured by US promises to reduce the risk of suicide. His fiancée said they intended to appeal. Mr. Assange is wanted in the US over the publication of thousands of classified documents in 2010 and 2011. Senior judges found the lower judge had based her decision in January on the risk of Mr. Assange being held in highly restrictive prison conditions if extradited. However, the U.S. authorities later gave assurances that he would not face those strictest measures unless he committed an act in the future that merited them. Oh, like what, sneezing? Oh, God. Let me see here. Mr. Assange's fiancée, Stella Morris, called the ruling dangerous and misguided, adding that the U.S. assurances were inherently unreliable. For the past 2.5 years, Julian has remained in Belmarsh prison, and in fact, he has been detained since December 7th, 2010 in one form or another. It's 11 years. For how long can this go on? WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Kristen Horavnatson said in a statement, Julian's life is once more under a grave threat, and so this is the right of journalists to publish material that governments and corporations find inconvenient. This is about the right of a free press to publish without being threatened by a bullying superpower. Amnesty International described the ruling as a travesty of justice, and the U.S. assurances as deeply flawed. It poses a grave threat to press freedom, both in the U.S. and abroad. I don't see how he's not going to end up dead. I really don't. And for what? I don't think anything he did caused one person to have, their life snuffed out. No one died because of WikiLeaks. Not one. He just broke news that, you know what, the U.S. is spying on its citizens. They know about it, and they're hiding it. And a bunch of other shit. You want to know why the U.S. and basically the West dislikes Julian Assange? Look up actually what he did. I mean, that's a whole other podcast. If convicted in the U.S., Mr. Assange, now 50, faces a possible penalty of up to 175 years in jail, his lawyers have said. However, the U.S. government said the sentence was more likely to be between 4 and 6 years. You may not like him. You may not like him personally. I don't really like him as a human being. But what he did, that's what whistleblowers do. Okay, there would be no Watergate. This kind of shit is important to not only America, but to democracy, in my humble opinion. Mr. Assange faces an 18-count indictment from the U.S. government accusing him of conspiring to hack into U.S. military databases to acquire sensitive secret information relating to the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, which was then published on the WikiLeaks website. He says the information exposed abuses by the U.S. military. It did. But U.S. prosecutors say the leaks of classified material endangered lives, and so the U.S. sought his extradition from the U.K. Well, I need to see a list of names. Who died from this? Mr. Assange remains in prison while he fights extradition because of his history of absconding. By the way, extradition is the process under which one country can ask another country to hand over a suspect to face trial. So if you give a fuck about the freedom of press you should be aghast at this. You should be horrified and angry that this is even happening. But let's move on to another heartwarming story. Bitcoin surge a boon for white nationalists, says a study, and this is on The Hill. Now, some of you may say, well, what the hell is a boon? B-O-O-N. Well, I had to look it up as well. I knew what the word meant, I thought, and I was right. It basically means a thing that is helpful or beneficial. So Bitcoin is beneficial for certain white nationalists. Oh, lovely. You know Bitcoin, the thing that millennials and Gen Z loves because it takes the power away from the feds and the government, man. Except Bitcoin isn't really built on anything real or tangible. At least the stock market and the U.S. Financial system was once physically placed on gold. Now it's all fucking made up on IOUs, basically. But Bitcoin is something that, to me, is not even real at this point. It's still in its infancy. I don't have any faith or trust in it. I don't like how someone, let's say that dickhead Elon Musk, can get on there and text some bullshit about some made-up Dogecoin or what the fuck coin, and it'll spike up or spike down. People will lose money within seconds. I prefer the stock market, because at least if I can lose money, there's a paper trail explaining why. So fuck that and NFTs and wipe my ass with them. I don't understand them. I get real boomery when it comes to cryptocurrency. But anyway, back to the story. The increase in Bitcoin's value over the last few years has made several prominent white nationalists rich, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. The legal nonprofit identified over 600 far-right extremists with cryptocurrency holdings. Several prominent white supremacists, like Andrew Auernheimer and Andrew Anglin of the Daily Stormer and racial pseudo-scientist Stéphane Molyneux, were early adopters of Bitcoin, providing them with significant windfalls. Tens of millions of dollars worth of value have been accumulated by far-right figures overall through cryptocurrency holdings, the SPLC's investigation through blockchain analysis software found. Nothing is inherently criminal or extreme about it, and most of its users have no connection to the extreme far right, the study notes. However, the far right's early embrace of cryptocurrency merits deeper analysis due to the way they use it to expand their movement and to obscure funding sources. That's another thing. A lot of criminals use Bitcoin, more so than actual dollars and checks and have bank accounts, because, you know, that shit is watched over by the federal government. Nothing is watching over Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency, which is more commonly used as an investment vehicle than a replacement for legal tender, has grown in popularity swiftly in recent years. That popularity growth has spiked the value of many tokens, including Bitcoin, dramatically. A single Bitcoin is now worth $47,000. Jesus. Cryptocurrency provides a valuable payment method for white supremacist figures who are banned from using traditional credit cards and major apps like PayPal or Stripe. So, just another reason that cryptocurrency needs to be figured out, and it kind of needs to be governed. Do I trust the government to govern it? Not so much, but I don't know what other options you got. It's not safe. It's not secure. It's basically monopoly money, except it costs you real money to fucking play. And plus the whole process of mining for Bitcoins is horrific on the environment. So for all the climate change that millennials and Gen Z pretend to respect and love and fret over and get really anxious about the world ending because the boomers are ruining everything, and I subscribe to that knowledge, mining for Bitcoin is horrific in terms of what it does for climate change. So maybe just because it's an alternative and old people don't understand it doesn't necessarily mean it's a better option, you young mooks. But anyway, let's move on to an actual heartwarming story. Starbucks workers form their first union in the U.S. in a big win for labor. So once you thought that labor unions are at an all-time low right now, with Amazon beating Alabama's union, but however, that's going to be a revote, thankfully. And Kellogg's, those cocksuckers, are basically saying, hey, all you striking workers, we're going to replace and fire all of you and hire scabs from Mexico. So fuck Kellogg's. For the love of all that you hold dear, Do not support Kellogg's now or in the future. Fuck Kellogg's forever. That's probably the name of this podcast. Fuck Kellogg's forever. I went over it last podcast. They own a bunch of shit. I posted a meme on social media. I'm sure if you go on Google and type in Kellogg, whatever, you'll see what they own. And you'll be disgusted that they own that much. But I posted some stuff on social media. Google it. You know what I'm talking about. So fuck Kellogg's in the booty, baby. But anyway, back to Starbucks. Starbucks workers have voted to form their first U.S. union. Workers from one store in Buffalo, New York, go Bills, baby, Josh Allen, whoop, whoop, voted to unionize in a watershed moment for Starbucks, which operates 8,953 stores just in the United States. God damn. And I bet half of those are in Seattle. 3 Buffalo area stores held separate union elections. Baristas and shift supervisors from one store voted to unionize 19-8, while workers from the second store rejected unionization 12-8. The third store failed to reach a verdict and faces a legal battle. There, 15 votes were cast for unionization and 9 against, while 7 votes were challenged. Most of the challenges came from the union, which argue that some workers who voted weren't regular employees at the location. The election marks one of the highest profile union wins for U.S. restaurant workers, which are among the least unionized in the country. Starbucks workers who voted to unionize will join Workers United, affiliated with the massive Service Employees International Union. 3 more Buffalo stores and 1 in Arizona are also trying to unionize. Starbucks has promoted its reputation as a progressive employer with generous benefits, arguing that a union is not necessary. In fact, Starbucks has fought off organizing attempts in New York and Philadelphia. Decades earlier, in the 1980s, the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union for a while represented some Starbucks staff. That union still represents workers at some locations run by grocery stores and not directly by Starbucks. Then, last year, workers at a corporate-run Starbucks store in Canada unionized. And now, 3 additional locations in the Buffalo area and the one in Arizona are pursuing a union. I think a unionized Starbucks restaurant will demonstrate to workers that it's not easy, but they can do it, says Rebecca Given, a labor studies professor at Rutgers University. We will likely see many, many more organizing drives. In a Thursday letter to staff shared with NPR, well, this is where the article's from, Starbucks North America president Roseanne Williams said, "For now, the union result entail no immediate changes. The vote outcomes will not change our shared purpose or how we will show up for each other," she wrote. "We want to protect partner flexibility, transferability, and benefits across all stores in a market or a district because we know that's important to partners." Well, you should have said that before you were heavily hitting these union organizers hard in the press. So Starbucks is not pro-union. They may say they're pro-union, but they're not. They fought this unionization tooth and nail. Again, NPR, I got to give it up to them. They've been covering union efforts across the country admirably. Check their work with Kellogg's, with Starbucks, with Amazon. Really, really great journalism. Great journalism still exists, people, believe it or not. And now let's go to a funny story. And I think we can close on this with the news, at least. Jussie Smollett has been found guilty of lying to the police. But before I get to that verdict, I think it's kind of comedic to me. A couple days ago, before this verdict dropped, just today, I was reading on Vice News that Jussie Smollett testified that he himself did drugs and masturbated with one of his alleged attackers. Smollett said when it all went down during a visit to a bathhouse with Abimbola, one of the brothers who's alleged hate crime on him. By the way, this guy's full name is Abimbola Osundario. And you're thinking, ooh, he sounds French or Italian. Nope, Nigerian. But Nigerians have the coolest names. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So this is Smollett recounting how he met the brothers. We went alone. We got a private room, Smollett recalled in the courtroom Monday. We made out a little bit, and this time we masturbated together. Smollett also testified that after he met Usandario at a club, they made out and did drugs during a different bathhouse interaction in Boys Town. Oh, nice little play on words there. So not only did he lie about all this, but he not only was friendly with these accosters, but he actually did some sexy time with them, which, again, I'm not slut-shaming Jussie Smollett. You want to go to Bathhouse and jerk off a guy and do drugs with him? More power to you. But maybe don't pick said person to fake a hate crime on you, you dumb fuck. But anyway, let's go to the actual verdict here. Okay, the actor was found guilty of falsely telling the police he was the victim of a hate crime, and he faces a possible sentence of up to 3 years, but experts disagree on whether the judge is likely to incarcerate him. I think he should be incarcerated a little bit, don't you think? Maybe for, a quick lesson to be learned. I'm thinking no more than 6 months, and don't put him with all the violent people. Make it like a low-key jail or something. I don't know. I don't think he should be with the General Pop, but yeah, you got to do something. You can't be making shit up like this, because it just spreads more hate and fear. He's turning into an agent of chaos, as the Joker would say it. Anyway, let me pull up some more tidbits here. In addition to his sentencing, Mr. Smollett will soon have to contend with a lawsuit against him in the city of Chicago. In 2019, Chicago officials, upset at the amount of police work that was spent on the case, sued Mr. Smollett to recoup more than $130,000 in costs, but it was put on hold until the resolution of the criminal case. The verdict in the case drew reactions on Friday from people across the country and across the political spectrum. Oh, God. This is where it gets bad. A co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, Melina Abdullah, told TMZ that Mr. Smollett still has the full support of her organization. Really, Black Lives Matter organization? Really? 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 You give Black Lives Matter all a bad name. She said in an earlier statement that she could not believe the police over Mr. Smollett, who she described as a black man who has been courageously present, visible, and vocal in the struggle for black freedom. Bitch, he lied! He lied! I'm sorry. This happened in Chicago. I don't think many MAGA-wearing Nigerian men, let alone men, live in most large-scale cities like Chicago. So, and a noose? Come on, Smollett. You could have gotten better than that. You probably were doing drugs with them, all jacked up, and you probably came a few times, and you thought, fuck it, man. Let's do something to get my name out there. And the fact that this Black Lives Matter hooah backs him up still just gives more of a reason to dislike the organization of Black Lives Matter. At least the one in Los Angeles. I can't speak to all Black Lives Matter. I don't know if all Black Lives Matter organizations support Smollett and saying, well, I don't care. The fact that the police are involved, the police are automatically wrong. Well, no wonder people are so torn on Black Lives Matter. Once again, it's something that has a good message. And of course, people had to go fucking wild with it and bring in Marxism and communism and all this other bullshit into it. And then you had those racists. They were like, well, what about all lives matter? And, police lives matter too. I mean, again, I will believe you all lives matter, blue lives matter, believe in fucktards, if you didn't only start chanting that fucking rhetoric once Black Lives Matter became a thing. If you were always saying, you know what, the blue lives do matter, and then Black Lives Matter came out, I'd be like, oh, okay, I can understand both sides. But the fact that no one gave a fuck about all this stuff until Black Lives Matter became a trending hashtag, then all of a sudden the white people with their fucking buzz cuts thought, you know what? Fuck all this racism about Black Lives Matter. Don't all lives matter? Well, sure, but by saying all lives matter, you are implying that Black lives do matter. So why can't you just say Black Lives Matter? Because anyone that has a common sense degree in life can understand, at least in this country of the United States, Black lives have not always mattered as white lives or even other lives of, or people's of color lives. Yeah, well, all lives matter still. Blacks don't matter more than whites. That's not what Black Lives Matter is saying. Then you might as well talk to a mute toddler at that point. Don't get me started on those blue lives matter pedo fucks. Nah, it's all garbage. But when I read shit from Black Lives Matter like this, I'm thinking, God damn, no wonder so many people dislike the Black Lives Matter, because they think that this represents all of it. No. It's just like people associate Antifa with peaceful protesters, which, again, Antifa, like Black Lives Matter, is usually a good thing. But then people can use a good thing and misconstrue it, twist it into something ugly, and suddenly you have these violent protesters smashing windows and burning cars and yelling, "Antifa, baby!" And why they're just white kids from the suburbs that had their mommy and daddy buy them a Viva Vendetta mask. Get the fuck out of here. So, Smollett, I don't think you should go to jail and serve hard time, but I'm thinking no more than 6 months. I think you deserve that. I think you deserve it for preying on people's emotions and trying to further divide this already divided country. And again, this would be a hilarious movie if it was made like in the 80s or 90s. But the fact that this shit happened, last year in 2019 by a gay black man hiring gay Nigerians to pose as hot-headed MAGA people in Chicago that just happened to have a noose on them just looking on the streets of Chicago for a black man. Are you kidding me? The Onion couldn't make up this shit, and I love that publication. But anyway, we're done with the news, baby. We're powering forward. I'm going to see a movie next week that I've been waiting to see for, I think, about 2 years, and that is the last in the Tom Holland Spider-Man standalone trilogy. I believe this one is called Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home, something like that. I forget what the last one was called. The last Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland I thought was so-so, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, but it set up some pretty big shit. And this new Spider-Man movie looks like it's on the scale of a Avengers movie. Maybe more comparable to Captain America Civil War, because that was like a mini Avengers movie. And it sure looks like we're going to have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back for probably a cameo or so. I can't imagine them being a big part of the movie. But you have the multiverse coming in. We have villains from all 3 versions of the Spider-Man movies. And they're bringing back all the same actors. So my nerd boner is pointed straight upward. And I can't wait to ejaculate my excitement all over myself in the Northgate movie theater next Thursday. And that coincides with my vacation starting next week. I'm going to have 10 days off, well, including Christmas and the weekend. It's going to be a lot longer than that. And, of course, I won't be in Germany, so I may do something around here. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really figured that out yet. Maybe I'll talk to some friends, some family. I'll talk to Kiwi, see maybe she wants to do something. So I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of Kiwi, last night, her and I went to Kent Station. Had a okay meal at the Ram. I only say it was okay because I think I ordered the wrong dish. I was a huge fan of their breakfast burger, but I had it like 10 years ago, but I still remember that. All it was is a runny egg on top of a burger with some onions, and I forget whatever the breakfast sauce they use. It's not hollandaise sauce, it's something strange, but I saw it on the menu online, got super excited. Went to the Ram. They didn't have it on the physical menu. So I asked the waiter. He said, "Oh, yeah, we have it. Let me take a look at the menu." "Oh, we don't have it, but we can special make it for you." And I'm like, well, if it's not too much. And it was not that good at all. But after that, we went to go see the House of Gucci movie. The one that has the all-star cast starring Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Al Pacino, Jared Leto, Jeremy Irons, Salma Hayek. And is there anybody else in that movie? I don't know. It was almost a 3-hour movie directed by Ridley Scott. I was pretty excited about it because I am a fan of most of these actors. And I gotta say, it was a so-so movie to me. I've had, of course, the night to think about it. I think a lot of the acting was over the top. I expected Jared Leto to steal the show, but he actually did not, in my humble opinion. That honor goes to Al Pacino. Adam Driver was okay. Lady Gaga was better than I expected, but still it seemed to be just almost like a soap opera. And I still can't wrap my head around, in today's society, especially in Hollywood, God forbid if you have a white straight actor playing a white gay person, or you have a non-trans person playing a trans person, or God forbid if you play the different race. But it's still okay for British, American, and I I don't know if there's any Australian actors in this movie, but they all are playing Italians. So Adam Driver and Jeremy Irons, Salma Hayek, and Jared Leto are not Italian. Well, Jared Leto maybe, but I don't think he is. Lady Gaga and Al Pacino obviously are. But, okay, so they're playing the Gucci family of the clothing line. And I think they do more than clothing at this point. But they're all supposed to be living in Italy. This takes place in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So you would think they would either speak Italian or do something. No, they are doing this stereotypical American-Italian accent. Nice to meet you. Come on in. Sit down and pour yourself an espresso. I'll get Mama to make some spagabagoo. And it's so ridiculous. I'm like, this would not be acceptable for any other race. Maybe Greeks, but Greeks and Italians, we don't give a fuck if you're racist or stereotypical or whatnot towards us. Because I think we have the best sense of humor out of any race in the world. So you want to have a British actor playing an Italian, go right ahead. We don't give a fuck. But God forbid if that British actor plays a Hispanic or South African, or God forbid if that British person is straight and they're playing a gay person. Oh my God, let's burn it all down. So all in all, I give House of Gucci, let's see, let's use Netflix ratings, 1 to 5, with decimals included. I probably would give it like a 2.9, 2.8, not quite a 3. I still enjoyed it, but for a movie that's almost 3 hours long, they sure kept a lot of shit out of the movie, surprisingly, and there was a lot of filler, whereas I didn't know why they needed to use filler. Just tell the rest of the story, motherfucker. But anyway, Kiwi and I have been watching some older movies at home. We watched Stephen King's Thinner the other day, and I remember that movie scaring the bejesus out of me as a kid, but I'm watching it again. It's like a student film B movie. Pretty bad, but it was still kind of enjoyable. I finally watched the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie from a couple of years ago. I could see why it's made for kids and families, but holy shit. The capitalistic nonsense in that movie. There must have been 5 Olive Garden advertisements in there. There was it Travelocity? No. What the fuck website do you look at houses? I don't know. There's a major website to look at homes, and I feel like I was being advertised shit nonstop in the movie. That could have been because they had to redesign Sonic, because the original Sonic looked like an anime porno character. So they redid it, but of course that costs money. The movie got delayed a little bit, and so they had to sell some of their pride a little bit. And I don't know why they picked Olive Garden and that home search website. Why the fuck I can't think of it? It's not Redfin, it's something else like Redfin, but go fuck themselves. Jim Carrey was okay. I would have loved this movie if I was a kid, but watching it as a 30-year-old, 35-year-old, I should rephrase, just kind of felt too much. So, but anyway, let's move on from movies and TV shows. In fact, I didn't talk about any TV shows. I'm still watching The Simpsons. I'm still crying all the time during the show, just remembering the nostalgia. I watched one of my favorite episodes the other day, the softball episode, where they had all of the big baseball players, a lot of them on the Hall of Fame, voicing themselves as they play ringers to Burns' softball team to beat Shelbyville, those cunts. But anyway, is there anything else I'm watching I want to talk about? I started Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I've been wanting to watch that for a while. I've only seen the first episode. I'll give it a few more episodes. But let's see. I think besides that, we can move on to some other things here. All right, I think we're close to wrapping up here, so let me finish up with all the stories I wanted to talk about. I want to say rest in peace to some people who passed away recently. The first is Demaryius Thomas, former NFL wide receiver. So sad. It sounds like he had a seizure in the shower. What an awful way to die. I mean, Jesus Christ. Mostly known for the Denver Broncos and his career playing with Peyton Manning. One Super Bowl, what the hell was it? Well, the Super Bowl after the Broncos lost to the Seahawks, they went back and won. They beat Cam Newton and the Panthers. But let me pull up some tidbits here. Thomas's death appears to have been caused by a seizure. Thomas had just retired after spending 10 years in the NFL. He was a big part of the Broncos organization, and the team honored him on September 26th prior to the game with the Jets. I think they put him in the Ring of Honor or some shit. He played briefly for the Jets as well, but mostly known for Denver. In fact, he's one of the most prolific receivers. When he started playing with Peyton Manning, they had 4 years of just massive success. Thomas topped 90 receptions and 1,300 yards in each one of those seasons. Of course, he was on the receiving end of one of the most iconic plays in Broncos history. He caught Tim Tebow's miraculous pass in the playoff game against the Steelers, which nobody thought they should win, nor should they should, because Tim Tebow was a pile of garbage at quarterback. But he was beloved around the NFL. He did massive charity work, specifically with younger children, because his own personal story is very harrowing and unfortunately very common for mostly people of color that grow up in, poor areas. He basically had to raise his younger siblings at a very young age. And anyway, I won't do his story justice, but he felt such empathy and compassion and love for those like him growing up that he spent a lot of his time and a lot of his earnings helping those in need. So that's very sad. And continuing with the condolences, Michael Nesmith of the Monkees and his own very successful solo career, singer-songwriter and damn good guitarist. Many musical experts kind of put him on a pedestal for country rock. And you could also argue that he was a pioneer not only in country rock, but also kind of a hybrid between country rock and folk rock. In fact, you listen to a lot of his solo stuff, specifically from the 70s, you will hear a lot of elements that have inspired a lot of that country indie folk rock of the 90s. I'm thinking of the Wilcos, and of course I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but Wilco popped in number one. He died at 78. He was known as the Quiet Monkey. But let me pull up a little bit about him. And I think he knew he was dying because they played a farewell tour only weeks before his death. He wanted to go out on top, I think. He died at heart failure in California. Well, maybe he didn't know he was going to die. But anyway, that's very sad. So I wanted to pay my respects to those two individuals. And anyway, let's get a little more chipper here. What's up, LaFonda? A little funny story here. As you all are probably well aware, or not surprised, I am no fan of the religious huckster that is Joel Osteen. I think he is a snake oil salesman and really makes the case for why churches should be taxed like a business, and that he should be held in such contempt along with the Jeff Bezos's, Elon Musk's of the world. He may not be a billionaire, but, let me see, what is Joel Osteen's fortune? Because he works for a church. I don't know if those numbers are known. Let's see. Joel Osteen worth. Only $100 million? Yeah, I don't believe that. It's much, much more, because this story just came out early December. I can't believe I missed it. But a couple of years ago, he reported $600,000 missing. Just recently, a plumber that was working in the church was tearing down a wall, and he found this $600,000 hidden in the motherfucking church walls. Huh? They're envelopes and checks. So let me pull up the story here. The plumber revealed the discovery on Thursday when he called into a Houston radio show. There was a loose toilet in the wall, and we removed the tile. We went to go remove the toilet, and I moved some insulation away, and about 500 envelopes fell out of the wall. His reaction? Oh, wow. I think of that infamous scene in Breaking Bad when the main character is putting the money literally in the wall. He's holding his newborn baby and just is smiling like, oh, this is all going to be yours. But he has to hide this mass fortune in the fucking walls. Eerily similar, don't you think? The plumber said he contacted a maintenance supervisor and then gave the church the envelopes. You dumb motherfucker. He probably goes to the church and believes that, oh, this money would be better suited to be handled by Joel Osteen. Not me. I'm just a poor, dumb plumber. Oh, you dumb motherfucker. I would have taken that money and said, well, your toilet's fixed, and just fucking hightailed it out of there. Oh, God, I can't believe it. On Friday, the Houston police confirmed that the money appeared to be connected to the 2014 theft. Oh, Jesus, I cannot believe it. I hope the police are investigating how the fuck has this money been sitting in these walls for this long. And I want to see Osteen's face the minute he heard that they found the money in the walls. Did he give one of his closed-eyed, puffed-out face, kind of jack-off smile face? Ooh, I can't believe they found my money. You know, because he's the only preacher I've ever seen that when he's out there giving his sermons or whatnot, his eyes are closed, because even he can't believe the fucking filth that's coming out of his mouth. If he opened his eyes, he'd be repulsed. But nope, he keeps his eyes closed, so he's all right. Oh my God. But it sure seems to me that Joel Osteen probably was watching Breaking Bad and saw some parallels between him and White, and thought, well, that was Breaking Bad's character's name, right? Anyway, he saw some comparisons between him and, you know, the main character in Breaking Bad. Why can't I think of his name? Walter White, yeah. And said, oh, I can be like that. I can learn a lot from Walter White. He may be selling meth to pay off his debts. Well, I'm using religion to pay off my own vanity and pride. So, fuck Joel Osteen is basically what I'm saying. He was hiding $600,000 in the wall for one reason or another. Say that it's missing so that he could have a nice little golden parachute if it's ever needed. Oh, I cannot believe you couldn't even take just a little bit. Oh, you dumb Christians. Disgusting. Well, continuing with cunts of the week, I guess. We're dipping our toes into that category. Joel Osteen is easily number one. But a close second is that Lauren Boebert Hua. If you don't know who she is, she's a far-right extremist. I believe she's serving in the House. And she called Omar, what's her name? The Minnesota congresswoman. She is Ethiopian? Something like that. Anyway, she's part of the squad. I'm a huge fan of her. I don't agree with everything she says, but the mass majority of the time I do. That's basically me with the squad overall. I would say the mass majority of the time, when any one of them opens their mouth and speaks, once you cut out all the jargon and all of the political speech, you know what I'm talking about, trying to suck up to voters and whatnot, you actually strip away all that and look at actually what they are saying and what they believe in, I agree with them 9 times out of 10. And Omar is no exception. But those two, Boebert and Omar, were kind of going at it a little bit because you could not be more different. And Boebert basically called Omar a Islamic terrorist. And of course, every Republican wants to censure. Is it censure or censor? Well, basically, they want to kick Boebert off all of her assignments, basically. All of her... I think she's even on a few boards or administrations within the government. I don't know. Anyway, that bitch needs to go. Omar did the right thing, released some audio tapes of it. I would play it, but forget it. You don't need to hear it. Do your own research. And then, to make matters worse, Boebert, a huge supporter of all the wrong reasons of the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. That cunt. Anyway, Boebert posted a Christmas photo of all of her family, and I think she's got 3 or 4 kids, all under the age of like 11 or 12, I believe. By the way, she is a piece, though. Boebert is very attractive. She's like a younger, hotter version of Sarah Palin, and she gets those comparisons constantly. She probably loves it, but the bitch is crazy, just like Sarah Palin. And anyway, the Christmas picture was of all of her family in front of a Christmas tree, all holding assault weapons. I believe they were all AR-15s. I'm not a gun guy. I can't tell the difference by just looking at a gun if it's automatic or not. Who gives a fuck? But when the kid is holding a gun that's bigger than the kid itself, it's probably a little bit too much. And you know why she was doing it. She's just rubbing people's faces in it. She knows that assault weapons, especially AR-15s, are a hot topic right now and very divisive. It always has been. So she posts a photo of all of her dumb fuck family holding these AR-15s, And again, some of these kids look like they're 6 or 7 years old. Do you really want to have them holding an assault weapon like that? I mean, come on. Again, you want to have an assault weapon? There's no law that says you can't have one. The only reason, in my humble opinion, you need a assault weapon like that is if you're pig hunting in Texas or in the Midwest. Because I don't know if you guys know, there is a massive, massive, massive hog infestation all over the central part of America and Texas. And I think it's even spreading west and east now that I think about it. I believe Texas just passed a law that's saying you can get a helicopter, get your AR-15, and start murking those hogs from the air. Now, that may sound awful to some of you animal lovers. I'm the hugest animal lover, but fuck them hogs. Not only are they destroying the landscape and killing the ecology, but they're eating animals they shouldn't be eating. They're eating a whole bunch of shit that are growing in the farmland for us, people. So, fuck them hogs. That's the only reason why you should have an AR-15, in my humble opinion, is if you are literally taking out the hog trash. But if you just have a micro penis and you want to have 10 AR-15s in a safe in your garage so that when your wife yells at you and your kids call you a failure, you run crying in the garage and you just kind of dry hump that safe and think, I wish just once someone will break in this house or break in my car and I can whip out one of these AR-15s. I mean, you need to chill. You need to chill. I'm sorry that your life sucks so much that the only pleasure you get is by rubbing the AR-15 up and down your tiny little cock. I'm sorry, but life is worth more than that. So if I was in charge, I would say no more assault weapons. This is crazy. The only people that can maybe get in an assault weapon or an assault rifle, whatever, AR-15, they would have to get like so many background checks. They have to go through safety training. I mean, they have that it should be difficult to get a gun regardless, in my opinion. You shouldn't be able to just wake up, go drive down to a 7-Eleven and buy a gun under the counter. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't happen. It should be hard to get a gun. And if we're not going to make it hard to get a gun, well, then we need to pass a law saying, okay, you can get a gun easily, but now you have to take safety lessons. You have to go to target practice so that, God forbid, you ever have to use the gun, you don't miss and just start shooting the wrong people when you're trying to hit one person. I mean, these are common sense things, people. We should have harsh penalties for people who get guns illegally. But anyway, this is not about guns. It's about that hua Boebert and how she's calling Ilhan Omar a goddamn terrorist. So, Boebert, you're a cunt. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're a cunt. Joel Osteen, biggest cunt. Somehow people that are loathed, hated, not respected somehow can fail up. Look at Kamala Harris. She has the worst approval rating of any vice president that I have seen in my lifetime. The only reason she got the vice presidency, in my estimation, is because she's a woman and she's black and Indian and she's from California. But you look at her record, it's garbage. Tulsi Gabbard, before she went buck wild, basically ended Kamala Harris's presidential dreams and aspirations in that one debate where she just said, look at this bitch's record. And then everybody was oohing, ahhing, and Tulsi Gabbard beat her single-handedly with like a 3-minute speech. But that doesn't matter. Somehow Kamala Harris still failed up. And now I've heard rumors, now I don't think this is going to happen, but I've heard rumors that the Biden administration doesn't know what to do with her. So they may put her on the Supreme Court. Because she is a lawyer. And I'm thinking, has there ever been a politician that has failed up so quickly, so rapidly, than Kamala Harris these last few years? It's insanity. I mean, Hillary Clinton failed up. I mean, Hillary Clinton was Bill Clinton's wife, and she was given everything. Anyway, this isn't about the Clintons. So anyway, failing up. I don't know if that could happen in many other countries outside of America. Not just failing up, but failing up spectacularly. Failing up. The American dream. Last but not least, Chris Wallace is leaving Fox News. He was the only journalist there, in my opinion, that had any ounce of credibility. He is leaving, and he is now switching sides, and he's going to CNN. Not the CNN TV station, which I don't know how is still on the air, because without Trump, I don't know what the fuck they're going to talk about there. He's going on their CNN streaming service. So that's probably going to have a 3-month lifespan before that fails. But don't worry, I'm sure everyone on there will get promoted somehow. So Chris Wallace leaving Fox News. Is it Chris Wallace? Is that his name? Hold on, am I thinking of the wrong jabroni here? Hold on, let me pull this up. I don't want to spread falsities. We have enough of that in the media and the press. Chris Wallace. Is that who I'm thinking of? Yeah, that is who I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah. Leaving Fox News, going to CNN streaming service, which will obviously fail in a matter of months. So, but anyway, with that, I think we can wrap up. I love y'all. Hope you take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and yeah, see you guys around the bend.